All right, good morning everyone. Hope we're all doing well out there. My name is Shelley and I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar on your personal budget. This webinar will run for no longer than 45 minutes, which includes time for questions at the end of the presentation. Once the webinar is finished, we'll send out a short 2 to 3 question survey. Those who complete the survey will automatically receive a free copy of our budget template. And as an added extra, for each completed survey that we receive, BDO will also make a donation to a Wellington-based charity. So please ensure you take a minute to respond, and we really appreciate it. Moving on, I would like to introduce you to today's presenters, Melody and Anna. Some of you may have crossed paths with Melody and Anna over the years. However, for those of you who have not had the pleasure, let me introduce you. Firstly, Melody. Melody is an accountant in an advisory team. She comes to accounting in BDO after 10 years' experience as a personal trainer in New Zealand and overseas. While thoroughly enjoying the learning curve of career change has been, she fully appreciates how foreign accounting speak can be. Melody enjoys working with people and seeing them achieve their goals, albeit their goals are tending to be finance rather than fitness focused. And Anna is a senior manager in our advisory team in the Wellington office. She leads a team of accountants that specialise in the retail and franchise sector. Anna has worked in the retail industry for over 15 years and is passionate about helping clients grow their businesses. Before I hand the reins over to Melody and Anna, just a little bit of webinar housekeeping. So this is a Microsoft Teams live webinar, so all attendees will be on mute for the duration. We've allowed time for Q&A at the end of the presentation, and we welcome all of your questions. To ask a question, select the chat icon, which is just here. Select Ask a Question, and a question box will appear. We'll do our very best to answer all of your questions, but just in case we don't, please leave your name and your contact details and we'll come back to you. Your questions are only visible to us, so please don't be shy. Now let's get into it. Over to you, Melody.
Thanks for the intro, Shelley. Welcome everyone to our webinar, Know Your Personal Budget. And we hope that you find it interesting and challenging as we discuss a very important subject that affects you on a day-to-day basis, your money. As we go along today, feel free to take notes and submit any questions you have in the chat panel. And don't forget to complete our survey to get a copy of our budgeting template. Anna will take us through how to use it later in the session. Before we get stuck in today, I just want to throw in our usual disclaimer that the information in this educational webinar is general in nature and no substitute for tailored advice specific to your particular circumstances. So please, if you require further clarity, feel free to get in touch. Let's start by thinking about our thought of the day. It is critical that kids start to learn the value of money, short-term and long-term savings, and budgeting at an early age. We all know the earlier we learn good habits around money, the better we will be with it. But let's be honest, some of us were never taught these things as kids. In fact, we may have even picked up some bad habits from our parents and others along the way. Fortunately, it's never too late to learn and never too late to make a change. And so that's why we're here today, to provide you with the tools and know-how to get financially fit and healthy. For example, the COVID-19 pandemic has certainly highlighted some gaps in people's financial awareness skills, especially in the first few weeks of lockdown, when there was great uncertainty for a number of people around job security, food, and making mortgage payments. Many of us were thinking, I should have been better prepared for an emergency. Well, today, we are going to help you be better prepared, and this all starts with having a personal financial plan, better known as a budget. To that end, we're going to look at the following topics, which you can now see on your screen. Other than learning how to create a budget, I think the most valuable topics are the benefits of having a personal budget. You might find some quite unexpected benefits in amongst some of the more obvious ones. And obviously, if you find a benefit in it, you're more likely to do it. Also, staying accountable. I'll now hand you over to Anna to kick things off with what a personal budget actually is.
Thanks, Melody and Shelley. I'm excited to be here to talk about this topic with you all today. So what do you mean by a personal budget? The word budget doesn't sound very attractive, does it? This is the definition of a personal budget. While the definition sounds a bit accounting nerdy, it is a very useful definition because it touches on three important aspects. Firstly, this is a personal budget. The big emphasis on personal. Its purpose and form is quite different to the budget you create for your business. Secondly, your personal budget is not just something you create and then tuck in a bottom drawer. It's an action plan, and if followed, it will help you achieve your financial and lifestyle goals. And lastly, your personal budget is future focused. It is looking forward at your future personal income and allocating it towards your expenses, saving, and debt repayments. Put really simply, a personal budget is a plan that lays out how you will spend and save money. What you do with your money here is more important than what you make. Apart from the obvious visibility that it provides you, Melody will take you through the benefits of creating a personal budget.
So what do we get out of all of this? I'll give you a moment to read the 10 benefits and then we'll briefly touch on a few of them. Our number one is number one for a reason. Everyone likes to feel in control, right? The value in having more control over your financial future cannot be underestimated. No longer will you feel like a ship being tossed in the ocean. Instead, you will be at the helm, steering your financial ship to the desired location. You will be in control of your money instead of the other way around. A personal plan will also keep you focused. It's amazing how often clients will say to us, when we get to their drawings figure while going through their annual accounts, and they'll say, we can't possibly have spent that much money last year. Well, if you have a plan in place, you'll have greater awareness of where your money is actually going. Boiled down, this is going to give you greater accountability for your spending. All this will create better money habits, which will help you manage debt levels and enables you to achieve your wealth goals. The other great thing about a personal budget is it also acts as an early warning system, as you'll be able to anticipate upcoming costs, and so you'll have more time to deal with any financial emergencies you see on the horizon. You may even be able to build up a buffer to offset these emergencies when they come along. All these benefits go hand in hand, and some of the greatest benefits are non-financial. Now, this is where I feel like I'm putting my old personal trainer's hat back on and sit you down on the couch. Communication is possibly the biggest non-financial benefit. Some of you may have learned the hard way, but I can assure you that by preparing a budget, this will avoid some of the more complicated discussions around money, especially with your partner or others in the household. It can become a powerful communication tool, getting everyone on the same page with clear goals. According to marriage guidance experts, financial conflict is in the top 3 most common argument topics, along with parenting and sex. So this is important and worth spending time on. At the end of the day, if you have a budget and you use it as one of your wealth creation tools, you will end up with more money and arguably less stress and conflict with your significant others. You may get that new item or holiday you've been dreaming about after all, and still have a happy home life. I guess the question is then, if having a personal budget is such a smart thing to do, then why isn't everyone doing it? Here are a couple of roadblocks that come up when people think about budgets, and I mention these so you don't get caught in the trap. People can think it's all way too much work. Setting up your personal budget and reviewing your progress each month shouldn't be a time-consuming process. There are some simple things you can do to make things easy on yourself. Firstly, make sure all your personal spending comes from one bank account or credit card, and try not to pay personal expenses out of business bank accounts. That way, you'll only have one spending source and everything will be much easier to track. Then, all you need to do is get a simple budget template like the one we can provide, or an app if you're more tech savvy, and you'll be good to go. Budgeting doesn't need to be complicated and certainly shouldn't be time-consuming. Others think when you say budget, you'll be on bread and water for the year. You need to think of it as a spending plan instead of a budget. It should be the exact opposite of confining. It's actually liberating because it results in guilt-free spending, as you know other dollars are already allocated to your expenses. You'll no longer have the fear you might run out of money before the end of the month. A big roadblock for most is also fear. The fear of putting the subject of money on the table and what you might find when you create your budget. Fear can prevent many people from looking closely at their spending and many couples from talking about budgeting. But conflict around money doesn't resolve itself. As mentioned earlier, a personal budget is one simple step you can take towards a healthy relationship with money by opening up communication channels in this area. We all have areas of spending that can improve. The important thing is to find what works for you. So since we've now debunked all these avoidance techniques we commonly use, Anna will now talk you through the components that make up a budget.
Cool. Thanks, Melody. So there are two key components in setting a personal budget up: income and expenses. A third component is often overlooked and is equally important as setting up a budget, and that is regular monitoring. As mentioned earlier, this isn't something you curate and put in the bottom of the drawer to be forgotten about. Create a habit of regularly checking in on your actions to make sure your plan is coming to life. Let's now dive into the steps to create a personal budget for yourself. So in a minute, I'll run through a demonstration of our template, but first let's just talk about some general steps of setting any budget. So the first steps of creating any personal budget is to set up your 12-month personal budget worksheet with income and expenses broken down on a monthly basis. This can simply be done in an Excel spreadsheet, or alternatively, there are many personal budgeting apps you could use for this depending on what you're comfortable with. The template we use is in Excel, and we can send this to you after you've completed our short survey. First, you need to enter your monthly income. Next, enter in expenses line by line with categories so that you can see your monthly spend for each category. Seeing how much of your income needs to be allocated towards food, for example, can be very empowering. It's likely you'll have a good understanding of your monthly income from drawings from the business, wages, and rental income. However, you might not fully understand the extent of what you're personally spending from that each month. To get a better idea of how you're spending and what you're spending it on, it's a good idea to start by analysing your personal bank accounts and credit cards. You may find the amount in some categories a little shocking if this is your first time taking a closer look. If you would prefer a budget on a forward-facing basis, be sure to include big-ticket items such as insurance rates, school fees, and the months they fall due. When budgeting for your debt repayments, this is your opportunity to plan for increases or decreases if necessary according to cash surpluses. Your personal budget goals may be to build up a cash surplus to invest further in your business or other investments. Remember, this is your personal budget and it needs to reflect your overarching family or personal goals. Right, so now we're going to switch screens over so I can give you a demonstration using our template. So just bear with us while we get the screen switched over. Cool, so in here, first thing, so this is our template here. The first thing we want to do is set the period that we want to start the budget from. So for example, if you're wanting our budget to start in May, select the year ending 30 April. So there's nice little drop down buttons in here. So I'm going to select 30 and we're going to select April and we're going to select 2022. Next, we're going to name our budget. So I'm just going to call it Anna and we click begin budget. So this clicks us straight down to the first step to fill in here. So the next step is you enter your monthly income. So the fastest way to do this is to select a payment frequency from the drop downs here. So firstly, let's enter in that we receive 10K of drawings from our business each month. So business drawings monthly and the amount 10,000. And you can see that this automatically populates across. Further, we anticipate that we'll receive a dividend from the business. So let's say I'll receive a dividend in May and in November. So to do this, we can actually select the option for manual, and then we can override the cells in here. If it's going to let me click in, there it is. And so we're going to put in 6,000 in May, and then we're going to put in 6,000 in November. So come across here and enter that in. Next, we need to enter our planned expenses. So if we scroll down on here, you'll see that there are 9 different categories for expenses. So I won't run through them. You can have a scroll through the template when you receive that. But let's just enter in a few for some examples here. So once again, the fastest way to do this is to select the payment frequency from the drop-down box and enter the appropriate payment amount. So let's go firstly with monthly mortgage interest payments of 1,750. So in here, I will put in 1,750, and that has populated across. Now for some electricity, so we'll come down to here, and we're going to put in, say, 290 a month. Note with these kind of costs, you could enter these manually so that you can add in higher amounts for seasonality, such as winter months will probably be a little bit more expensive. But for speed stakes on the webinar, we just leave it as that. And then finally, I have a cleaner and I pay them $75 a week, and I'm going to change that. So this is going to be weekly rather than monthly. And you can see there that updates there. So you go through the same category, same process for each category, household, different categories in there. As you add the data to the spreadsheet, at the top of it, you will see that it updates the cumulative cash surpluses, as it does so with the donut graph up here. So you can see a nice overview there. You can also, with the donut graph, it's set to annually, but if you want to pinpoint it on a certain one here, you just drag, it's hard on my smaller screen, you just drag this along here so it flicks and updates, and this is giving you the best example right now, but yeah, so you can have it on annually, and you can see the graph here is based on annual, and then if you have your one-off like expenditures, so I know in, was it November, I had the extra dividend coming in, so I have a bit more cash surplus that month. So let's now do something a bit more exciting and bring in something into your plan that you've always wanted to do. One of those big scary goals, let's say when the borders open up, that you want to travel to Iceland to see the Northern Lights, puffins in the wild, and dip in the Blue Lagoon. Iceland is not only one of the furthest countries away from New Zealand, but it's one of the most expensive in the world. So we need to save a big amount. Without speculation, let's say borders will completely open up by April next year, fingers crossed, and you want to go as soon as that happens. It's going to cost, say, $30,000 for everything: flights, accommodation, transport, food, and tours. Let's enter this in as a monthly savings. So we come down into our spreadsheet down here, and move it down a little bit more. We've got a holiday section in here. So we want to enter the monthly savings. So we want to change this to annual because we want to save 30 grand for annuals. And this will pre-populate how much we need to save each month. There it goes. So now let's check our annual cash surplus. So if we flick back up to the top, we can check up here just to make sure that we still are in a cash positive position. So we'll change that to annually. So it doesn't have to be Iceland, but you may want to buy a property, get married. Also, don't forget you might want to save for the smaller things that surprisingly add up, such as, say, Christmas. Now let's move on to the actual performance tab. Each month you'll review your budget and enter your actual income and expense. The budget column will automatically populate once data is entered into the actual column for the month. So you can compare your year-to-date actual with your budget to see if you're on track. If after a few months you feel your original budget isn't realistic, then you can re-change your remaining months. So we've flipped back over to this slideshow. Sorry, we'll just get the slideshow back up.
Being with us, there we go.
Cool, so on here you can see Ken and Sue Smith are tracking their way to an almost 19k surplus for the year for 31 August 2021. Seeing this means that they have the power to decide what to do with that extra cash without wondering if they need it for something else. They could put that on the mortgage or invest it into their business. It all depends on their personal goals. To really help you make a budget come to life and work and it work for you, Melody will take you through ways to stay accountable.
Thanks, Anna. Now that you're all set up, I just want to talk about the finishing touches of budgeting. It doesn't really matter if it's your business budget or your personal one. We need to stay accountable to it. We're not just going to set it and forget it. There's little point in preparing a personal budget if you don't monitor your progress. Although it's great to learn where your money actually goes, this is only the first step. The enduring value comes from seeing your spending habits improve and having open and comfortable discussions about how you're tracking and whether you're achieving your personal financial goals. And remember, as we mentioned before, your personal budget is just that. It's personal. It's yours alone. Your budget simply reflects your decisions around how you spend your earnings and how much should be left over for debt reductions, savings, and investments. Throughout the process, try to have some fun and bring some light to what can be a serious topic. Celebrate your wins. And yes, your celebration may involve spending money, but it also might not. Make sure to make the celebration something that means something to you. Thinking back to our thought of the day, remember not to hide this from your children. Let them see you set aside time to work out your budget. Perhaps you get them to join in and set a goal for their pocket money or wages. Make this process normal and lighthearted so your loved ones will also see the importance of building healthy money habits for life. And remember, if you get stuck along the way, the team here at BDO is here to help. I will now let Anna tell you how we can be of assistance throughout this process.
Thanks, Melody. So in terms of support, here are the ways we can really help you be on this webinar. As noted right at the beginning, the information in this educational webinar is general in nature and no substitute for specific tailored advice and support. Please get in touch with us through the Q&A section if you would like us to contact you after this webinar about any of our services, particularly reviewing and or coaching for personal budgets and goals. Even if you don't know where to start, just reach out. We'll be more than happy to talk to you. That about wraps things up at our end. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen in. We hope you've taken something away from it. I'll now hand back over to Shelley to run us through some of your questions.
Okay, thanks guys. We've got a couple of questions here. I'll ask it and then one of you guys just jump in and let me know. So what do I do if something completely unexpected happens, e.g. lose my job due to COVID or need a new car?
Yeah, that's a great question there. So the budget template we ran through before is really handy in these circumstances, because you can actually change the future periods. So if something suddenly happened and you're no longer getting that income source, you can change that, and you can also use it to determine what expenses you can trim out. The flip side of that, of course, if you want something like a new car or you need a new car, like that holiday example, you can actually allocate specific savings, or you can identify where you had cash surpluses available.
Cool, thanks, Anna. There's another one. So could you use this information when applying for loans from the bank? Which is a very good question.
Yeah, and that's a great idea. I imagine the banks will really like seeing that you actually budgeted things out, and especially using that second tab that Anna showed you, where you can compare your budget to your actual. So the bank can also see what's actually happening and how that compares to your budget. Is your budget accurate? That kind of thing. Also, I guess, on the other hand, having all your expenses in one place is going to save you time and stress when you actually go to the bank, especially if you're applying for a mortgage or something like that. They're going to ask you what your expenses are. So having those there ready to go is going to make your life a lot easier at the time.
Awesome. All right. If you guys have any other questions, just feel free to send them through. In fact, I'll go to the next slide, because on the screen see the contact details for our two lovely presenters today. So if you'd like any assistance, please feel free to email or call Melody or Anna, and they'll be happy to help. I'll leave that on there for a couple more seconds. All right, thanks for making the time to attend this webinar. We appreciate that your time is precious. Please do complete the brief exit survey following the session so we can continuously improve and get your feedback on what other webinar topics you'd like to see from us. We hope we've given you plenty of ideas to ponder and some clear next steps for you and your significant others. Thank you.
Thanks.